Have you ever wondered why King Henry VIII of England executed his wives? It's a question that has been pondered for centuries by historians, and the answer remains mysterious to this day. But that doesn't mean we should stop looking for clues to uncover the truth. At the time when Henry VIII reigned as King of England, executions were commonplace and often public spectacles. Henry's own brutal record includes executing 72 of his political opponents and imprisoning hundreds more. But what could have possibly motivated him to execute six of his own wives? In this article, I'll take you on a journey through time to investigate the unexplored histories of these women and the ultimate fate they suffered at the hands of the king. Let's dive in and see what we can uncover together. Historical context of Henry VIII's reign. Henry VIII was the second monarch of the Tudor dynasty, reigning from 1509 until his death in 1547. In his 38-year rule, Henry would divorce two of his six wives, have one annulled, and behead two more, a shocking history that's still widely discussed today. But what drove this king to take such drastic measures? To answer this question, it's important to understand the historical context of Henry VIII's reign. He unified England and Wales while claiming sovereignty over Scotland and Ireland, giving him absolute power over a country eager to make its mark on international history. He also had a keen eye for diplomatic alliances. His marriages helped strengthen England's relations with other European countries like France and Spain. Ultimately, it's likely that this drive for political gain mixed with Henry's inflexible personality led him to execute those wives who were unable to fulfill their duty as queen consort, a duty that was not taken lightly during this era. Introduction to Henry VIII's royal wives. Ever wondered why the ruler of one of the most powerful kingdoms in Europe chose to marry six times and execute two of his wives? King Henry VIII of England was an infamous and complicated figure, but to understand his actions we have to look closer at the lives of his six wives. Henry VIII married his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, when he was 18. The reign of their marriage lasted until he cast her aside to marry Anne Boleyn. Following Anne's execution on false charges, Henry went on to take two more wives, Jane Seymour and Anne of Cleves. His fifth marriage was with Catherine Howard and then Catherine Parr. Two out of six wives were executed during the reign of Henry VIII. These women all had individual backgrounds that led them to being a part of the king's saga, from tragedy to scandal, and eventually their untimely deaths. To uncover why Henry chose these women as spouses, as well as what led him to execute them, it is important to delve into each woman's unique story, causes and rationale behind execution of Henry VIII's wives. So why did King Henry VIII execute his wives? His motives are made clear through contemporary accounts and documents detailing the reasons for their executions, as well as his biographers. Annulment of marriages. One reason is that Henry wanted to annul his marriages so he could marry new wives. To do this, he had to first claim that his existing marriages were invalid, hence why Anne Boleyn was executed for adultery and treason, and that's why she had to be removed from the picture. Unfortunately, execution was all too often the punishment for his wives. Political and personal gain. Henry's biographer John Matusiak notes Henry's pursuit of annulment of his marriages with Catherine of Aragon and Anne of Cleves was largely motivated by political and personal gain. This gain could include ensuring an heir to the throne or breaking away from papal authority, depending on who he married at the time. Rumors of infidelity. Rumors were also rife about Henry VIII's fifth wife, Catherine Howard, committing adultery before and during their marriage, as well as having a premarital affair with her cousin Thomas Culper. These rumors played a significant part in why she was executed for treason, despite her strong protestations of innocence. In short, there were various reasons why Henry VIII executed his wives. Political motivations related to securing an heir or overthrowing papal authority often played a major role in these decisions. Examining Protestantism's influence on execution decisions. The rise of Protestantism had an effect on King Henry VIII's decision-making when it came to executing his wives. The king was brought up as a Catholic, but shifted his allegiance to the Church of England after the fall of Rome. Since the king had full control of the Church of England, he held sway over its doctrines and beliefs. This allowed him to shape them according to his own views, which included his belief that those who committed adultery should be punished with death. Role in marital unrest. Henry VIII's decision to execute his wives was also linked to their inability to provide him with a son and heir. As the head of a modernizing country, having established policies that would last for centuries and spread Protestantism worldwide, this was something he felt was extremely important. So when Anne Boleyn gave birth to a daughter, not a son, Henry VIII used Protestant doctrine as justification for her execution. Influence on Tudor law. The result of Henry VIII's marital woes became embedded in Tudor law, which stated that any woman who committed adultery with the king would be executed for treason. This law lasted for hundreds of years following Henry VIII's death and created further implications for women in British society until it was officially repealed in 2004. Impact of political scandal and ambition on the executions. You might be wondering why King Henry VIII chose to execute his wives. The answer lies in the complex political climate of the Tudor court and Henry's own personal ambition. Political scandal. Politically, Henry VIII was seen as weak and faced much criticism from his court and its subjects for his failed foreign policy. This made him unpopular in England, so executing his wives was a way to control the public perception of him. It sent a message that he was powerful and wouldn't be taken for granted. Ambition. On a personal level, Henry VIII wanted a male heir to succeed him as King of England. His first wife, Catherine of Aragon, did not bear him a son, so he sought annulment of the marriage on the grounds that it had been banned by the Church, but the Pope refused. This meant that anyone questioning the legality of any new marriages would be questioning Henry's own legitimacy as king, something he could not allow. So by beheading his wives and marrying Anne Boleyn, who eventually bore him a son, he silenced any doubt about his rule over England. So while we can never know all of King Henry VIII's motivations behind executing his wives, it is clear that they were heavily influenced by politics and ambition. Aftermath and legacy of Henry VIII's executions. Have you ever wondered why King Henry VIII, who reigned over England in the 16th century, executed his wives? It turns out that he had 6 wives, and he put to death 2 of them, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. What could have motivated the king to carry out such a heinous act? Let's take a look into the aftermath and legacy of the executions. Consequences for the kingdom. The inevitable consequences for Henry VIII's poor choices had a dramatic effect on the fate of England. His dissolution of monasteries had dispossessed their owners, making more people poor and landless. While some people criticized Henry VIII's relationship with women, they also strongly criticized his overall handling of government business. The act of executing royal wives was considered highly unusual at this time. In other countries across Europe, rulers normally banished their ex-wives or kept them in captivity or even secured an annulment or divorce. Of course, some executions were done by other medieval royalty in Europe, but these still were rare exceptions to general practice. The legacy today. Henry VIII's reign is still remembered today as one that brought immense political and religious turmoil to England in addition to damage to its reputation abroad. Historians have long been fascinated by his life, but also shocked by his behavior. Not only did he execute his wives, but tortured and killed those who opposed him. Conclusion. In the end, King Henry VIII's excessive use of power sets a tragic and powerful precedent. While it's been centuries since we've heard of royal decapitations, the underlying cause remains. He wanted what he wanted, and he was willing to do anything to have it. We can only hope that those in power today remember that their actions have lasting consequences and that the system itself holds them accountable for the choices they make. Until then, the story of Henry VIII and his fatal histories will remain a haunting reminder of the power of human will and the potential consequences of unchecked authority. Thanks for watching.